You see it all the time in competitive sports, right? Athletes are always hunting for that extra edge. And for a lot of them, especially in sports like wrestling, MMA, or judo, that edge seems to come from cutting weight, dropping a bunch of pounds really fast to compete in a lower weight class. But what if that so-called advantage actually comes with a serious hidden price? Okay, let's get into it. And we're not just talking about feeling a little run down. I mean a measurable physical toll that your body has to pay. So what is the real cost of dropping weight that quickly? Well, to figure that out, we're going to take a look at what happens when some of the world's most elite athletes push their bodies to the absolute limit. For any combat athlete, making weight is everything. The thinking seems pretty simple, right? Be the biggest, strongest person in your division. And this leads to this super common practice called rapid weight loss, or RWL, where athletes just shed a ton of weight in only a few days right before competition. So, to really understand what this does to a person's body, a recent study put this whole practice right under the microscope. They took a group of elite female judo athletes and had them cut 5% of their body weight, we're talking 5, maybe 7 pounds for most people, in just 72 hours, 3 days. And this was a serious setup. They didn't mess around. It was a 3-step process. First, they got all the baseline measurements, strength, fitness, the whole deal. Then, the athletes went through that intense 72-hour weight loss. And finally, they were tested all over again to see exactly what changed. And believe me, the results, they were pretty eye-opening. So what did they find? What is the actual price an athlete pays to see that magic number on the scale? Well, it turns out the cost can be measured in pure strength, in stamina, and even in how hard their heart has to pump just to keep up. The very first thing to take a hit was their power. Their neuromuscular function, basically the connection between the brain and the muscles, it just declined. You can see it right here in the drop-in hand grip strength. And look, for a judo athlete, grip is everything. It's a huge disadvantage. Their raw strength was literally just slipping away. And the impact on their actual judo performance? Even clearer. This number you see, 2.29, that's the average drop in the number of throws they could pull off in a special fitness test. They couldn't execute their moves as often or as well. So, in other words, the very thing they were chasing, that competitive edge, was being destroyed by the weight cut itself. And it wasn't just physical, not at all. The mental toll was just as real. The athlete's rate of perceived exertion, or RPE, it went through the roof. What that means is the exact same workout felt way, way harder after cutting weight. Their bodies weren't just weaker, their brains were literally screaming at them that they were working harder, just to get less done. But maybe the most alarming finding was the hit their hearts took. Just look at this chart. It compares heart rate recovery after some intense exercise. That blue line, that shows a normal, healthy recovery before the weight cut. But that orange line, that's after the weight cut, and it tells a scary story. Their heart rate stayed dangerously high and took so much longer to come back down. That is a cardiovascular system under some serious stress. So you've got a drop in strength, a drop in performance, and a heart that's struggling to keep up. This is a total system-wide breakdown. But what's actually happening on a biological level? What is going on inside the body to cause all of this? To really get it, we need to look at the body's internal power source. Think of it like its own electrical grid. And the answer is in something you've probably heard of a million times, but maybe never thought about like this: electrolytes. So what are electrolytes, really? Well, they're these essential minerals that carry a tiny electrical charge. You can think of them as the wiring that powers your entire body. They are absolutely critical for everything from your nerves and muscles firing correctly to your heart beating in a steady rhythm. Without the right balance, well, the lights start to flicker. Okay, now check this out. This is where it all clicks. On the left, you've got the classic symptoms of an electrolyte imbalance, straight from the Cleveland Clinic. Things like muscle weakness, irregular heart rate, fatigue. And on the right, the exact same effects they saw in the judo athletes. It's a perfect match. The weakness, the heart stress, feeling like every move is harder, it all points to one single culprit. So it all boils down to this: rapid weight loss, which is almost always done through severe dehydration, just throws the body's electrical grid into total chaos. It messes up that delicate balance of electrolytes, and that's what causes the system-wide breakdown we saw in those athletes. The drop in performance isn't just them being tired, it's a sign of a serious physiological problem. All right, so if rapid dehydration and messing with your electrolytes is the problem, then the solution has to be something totally different, right? It has to be stable, long-term nutrition.
As a really powerful contrast, let's take a look at a philosophy that gets this right, the traditional Japanese diet, known as washoku.
Now, Washoku isn't some new fad diet. It's a whole cultural approach to food, and it's so important it's actually recognized by UNESCO. It's built on a set of principles for balanced, healthy, and sustainable eating that's been perfected over centuries. A typical Washoku meal is just beautifully balanced. You start with a staple, usually rice. You'll have a soup, a main dish that's often fish, and then several small side dishes. That structure alone ensures you're getting a huge variety of vegetables and nutrients in every single meal. And the principles behind it are things anyone can learn from. Small portions, which helps prevent overeating, having soup with your meals, which studies show makes you feel fuller, a focus on fresh, seasonal foods, gentle cooking methods, and, this part is key, the masterful use of something called umami. Umami is that savory fifth taste that makes food so deeply satisfying, and this quote really shows its power. Umami is so good at boosting flavor that it makes foods with less salt, like, say, a bunch of vegetables, taste incredible. It's a totally natural way to make healthy eating a joy instead of a chore. So, where does all this leave us? We've seen two completely different ways of thinking about weight and health. One is a short-term, super high-risk gamble, and the other is a long-term, sustainable investment in your own well-being. This really makes the choice crystal clear. On one side, you have rapid weight loss, a destructive cycle of dehydration and imbalance that actually hurts your performance just for a temporary number on a scale. And on the other, you have a philosophy like Washoku, a sustainable approach that builds long-term health through balance, variety, and, well, deliciousness. And that really brings us to the final question, one that goes way beyond the world of elite athletes. In a world that's pretty obsessed with quick fixes and shortcuts, it's really worth asking ourselves, when it comes to our own health, are we playing the short game or are we in it for the long game?